The native Fremen dream of creating a green Arrakis, while the Baron Harkonnen wants to paint it red.
Hey everyone, today we're going to get some early impressions of the game Dune Spice Wars, which is a 4X strategy game, really deep strategy with a really cool art style. This is not trying to copy the exact art style of the movies, but it is staying very faithful to the book and movie source material, which of course is very expansive itself. So we're going to touch on some of the basic mechanics and really have fun digging into a little bit of this here. So first off, one thing to note about the game in the current state as of these early on impressions is this game is still in early access, meaning it's not a complete finished game. That being said, we didn't run into many bugs or glitches or anything like that, and it didn't crash at any point in time. Right now you do have access to all the major houses. You can choose between House Atreides, House Harkonnen, you can use the smugglers, and you can also choose the native Fremen. We spent a little time with House Atreides, but then just trying to do something a little bit different, I choose the Fremen. In that short time, we did find some significant differences, and it did highlight that there are pluses and minuses to each. If you choose an actual house with its accompanying perks, you also have more customization in that you can choose 2 counselors, and those 2 counselors have bonuses and strengths of their own. So for instance, if you're House Atreides, you can choose Lady Jessica, and she can have certain strengths that might adjust your playstyle or approach for that particular campaign. Depending on what house or race you chose, you'll have a different starting compound and base, and in the case of the Fremen here, you can see I have a Siege or a CH here. Like the game's subtitle suggests, the game is all about spice and controlling this powerful substance, and so as early as possible, the game is going to try and have you set up mining that material. You can see we have a ornithopter, and that's what you're going to use to explore and reveal new terrain and do general recon. Once you reveal a settlement, the house you've chosen is very much going to determine how you proceed. For instance, if you're House Atreides, you don't have to attack them and take them over. You can peacefully negotiate and have them be a part of your expansion. If you're the Harkonnen, you can pillage them to the ground and basically take them over that way. Of course, with all of them, you have the opportunity to send out your military and take them over and then claim it as a settlement of your own. This is the planet of Dune though, and once you establish a settlement, holding on to it and balancing all of that with your very limited resources can be quite tricky. So for instance, you need to probably leave a militia or some type of defenses so you don't get taken over by hostile forces. You can also build structures that can be military in nature, or also resource harvesting based on the tile and section of land that you are occupying. If you're not familiar with 4X strategy games, the 4X stands for Explore, Expand, Exploit, and Exterminate. And what this kind of translates into is very deep and long gameplay. So instead of standalone missions that you then start over with a fresh slate or a predetermined mission next, you're going to have a very large campaign map that you work your way through and try and basically take over and completely dominate over the course of the campaign. Pretty quickly, you're going to want to try and occupy a tile that has access to spice, since again, that is one of the main resources and the point of Spice Wars. If you are House Atreides and the others that use more mechanical engineering, you're going to need to pick up your mining operations so these sandworms don't suck you up. In the case of the Fremen, you can see that they don't have quite as much attention drawn to them, so that's not going to be as much of a concern. There's always something to do on the map, and using your ornithopter to scan and salvage materials can be great, or sometimes you'll have to send military units to investigate after doing the initial scan. You'll also get plenty of opportunities for bonuses in achieving certain time-sensitive goals with little story backgrounds attached to them. There are moments where this world of Dune feels truly alive, far beyond the bounds of your own little colonies you're trying to establish. For instance, there was times where I was tending my settlements and all of a sudden I heard fighting, only to pan up a little bit and find, oh, that's the Harkonnens attacking other colonies over yonder, and well, I better pay attention because they're going to be attacking me next. And then there were other times where I'm getting alerts that there's sandstorms incoming and I better move my ornithopters or troops out of the way or they're going to be in trouble. Again, this really lends a sense of realism and stays faithful to the books and the movie properties that they're based on.
What do you need?
4X strategy games tend to have a lot of depth and options, and this game is no exception. For instance, you will be caught up in the political climate of casting votes for things like infrastructure control, but that's going to affect everyone, so you can cast your votes for or against. You will also get agents that you can invest in certain missions or have them infiltrate other houses. And how is that going to benefit you and keep that balance active? There's also what is essentially a huge skill tree that gives you options for warfare or materials or intelligence networks, and how you divvy up those points will greatly affect the outcome of your play and strategy. As the campaign goes along, and typical of 4X strategy games, you will also talk and trade with other houses.
What do you want?
And potentially form alliances. And yes, in this case, if you're watching carefully, it seems like the Baron did set me up to talk about trade while he was secretly attacking me behind the scenes. That Baron him. And based on who you're playing as, there might be map-based opportunities as well. So for instance, as the Fremen, I can start trading and eventually form alliances with other natives of the land that can then boost my strength and opportunities. We haven't played all the different races and houses yet, but you can imagine that there would be a lot of emerging gameplay opportunities that would change with each playthrough. If you haven't been able to tell yet, this is a very deep and in-depth game, but in true 4X strategy form. In order to do a full review, we probably would have had to sat down with this game for dozens and dozens and dozens of hours, which is why we chose to do a impressions video instead of a full review. While it is in early access, again, as of the time of this impressions video, we can already tell that this is quite a polished game. It's definitely worth checking out and watching over its development, and if you're wary of jumping in on early access titles, like we often are, definitely add this to your wish list and check it out when it hits its full 1.0 release. We haven't had a Dune-based game in a long time, and this is definitely a worthy successor. It would essentially establish the RTS genre many years ago.